Cooper. Cooper with a great chance. Cooper must make it 4. He does.
The Full-Time Review Show is brought to you and sponsored, as always, by Saltire Energy, the global market leader in specialist drilling equipment rental, and also by Craig International, who are paving the way for global sustainable procurement. With concern for the environment at the front of everybody's minds, Craig International are committed to helping their customers work more sustainably and are taking steps within their business to reduce their carbon footprint. Their industry-leading EcoBuy initiative allows them to work with suppliers to ensure sustainable product options are available at all levels. To find out more about EcoBuy and how they are driving responsible procurement, please check out their brand new website. And I'm absolutely delighted to welcome to Alibeg ABTV a new sponsor in the shape of Kipco. And I would like to personally thank Alan Cameron, the owner of Kipco, a manufacturing and repair services company to the oil and gas industry. Together, we're going to be working for the next few months, and I am absolutely thrilled that they are on board. And to Alan, many thanks for your commitment to me on Alibeg ABTV. These were the scenes as I got into Pittodrie on Saturday afternoon, a cold and blustery day, as the teams walked out to what was a magnificent display, as it always is, by the Fans Project in the Richard Donald stand. A near enough sellout crowd at Pittodrie on Saturday enjoyed the pyrotechnics, the flags, the banners, the singing, and the atmosphere. It really was a truly special day, and it was fantastic to be back at Pittodrie amongst the Red Army. And thank you to all of you who came over to say hello on Saturday afternoon. These are your headlines. As always, my thanks to Don's Collector on Twitter for putting these all together for me. And it's absolutely fantastic to see at long last we're getting all the decent headlines after another fairly impressive performance over the piece. I would also just very quickly like to thank Frosty and Mike and Jim Corbett, who looked after me in the Legends Lounge on Saturday. Guys, I had an absolutely brilliant time. I had a really good laugh. So thank you for your hospitality at the Craig International table on Saturday in the Legends Lounge. That was quite good fun on Saturday, wasn't it? This is the review show, by the way. How you doing? A very warm welcome. Sorry I didn't bring it to you last night, but I was travelling back last night from Aberdeen, so I got in very, very late. So had an absolutely brilliant weekend, as you can imagine. The event on Friday, which I'll bring to you in just a second, and obviously been at Pittodrie as well. So thank you for coming over. Lots and lots of you came over, and it was really nice to meet all of you. And I'm delighted that you enjoyed the event on Friday night. And we had a lot of fun in Ardo House, thanks to the guys at the Longest 40 with Alex McLeish and Willie Miller. We'll come on to that a wee bit later. Don't forget, though, this is your opportunity to have your say tonight after Aberdeen's impressive win against Motherwell. A fantastic come-from-behind victory. Couldn't believe it when they opened the scoring in the first 5 minutes. I was like, really? Really? I come all the way for this? And then bang! Out of nowhere. And I thought we were absolutely magnificent. I thought we played some great football. I thought we were at them all the time. There was fantastic energy. There was great spirit. There was this real will that we haven't seen in such a while. And the contrast in performance to Saturdays against St Johnstone before the international break was absolutely night and day. So top 6 secured. I think that's undefeated in 8 games now. In and around the league. So yeah, it's looking good, isn't it? Absolutely delighted to get top 6. All we've got to do now is just kick on and try and finish 3rd. That's obviously got to be the aim. So there was lots of encouraging signs on Saturday. Andrew Budge and I, we discussed the impact of Leighton Clarkson, who I personally thought was our man of the match. And I thought it was probably one of his best games in an Aberdeen shirt. And we'll tell you why a little bit later. But let's just remind ourselves of the team that the manager picked. So he was forced into a change in between the sticks because, as we know, Dimitar Mitov injured himself during World Cup duty, and he is out for at least another 3 weeks. So there's your back four, with the skipper coming in at left back for Jack McKenzie, which I thought was a good call. Leighton Clarkson then played alongside Palaversa in what was a rather deep role, which we'll come on to in just a moment. Pape, he came in for the bag. And Eccles, he came in for Shaden Morris, who dropped down to the bench. And Kevin Nisbet. Wasn't Kevin absolutely magnificent again on Saturday, bagging a brace? The second one in particular was an absolutely magnificent finish. Match stats for you. So we enjoyed 61.9% of possession to their 38.1. 15 shots in total, of which 8 were on target. But look at this. These are quite impressive stats. So 30 touches inside Motherwell's 18-yard box, which was way up on the St Johnstone game. And successful final third passes, again, which was massively up on the St Johnstone game, 112 in total. So there was lots and lots of encouragement on Saturday. And obviously after the game, Yumi Talene was absolutely delighted. I'll bring a little snippet to you of that in just a moment. But again, before we get you guys on, at this juncture, I like to get Andrew on so that we can do the analysis and then you guys can react to what Andrew has put together for you. So welcome back to the show. We're concentrating all our efforts on Leighton Clarkson. Andrew Budge. Hi mate, it's good to see you as always. Thank you for coming on. So we're going to talk about Leighton Clarkson today. We'll go a wee bit more in depth in just a moment. But first of all, just give us your general thoughts on how we performed on Saturday.
Yeah, I thought it was a really positive performance, to be honest. Thought we came back from the early setback really well, which we haven't been doing at all recently. I thought it was a lot of good build-up in our play, which we'll come up to. I really enjoyed some of the passages of play we put together. And yeah, some really standout performances from the likes of Nisbet and Clarkson, which as we'll come on to. But yeah, really, really encouraging. I thought we looked a little bit of transition at points, so a little bit to improve on there, but overall, pretty chuffed.
Let's have a look at a graphic that you've got for us to begin the chat, which shows the shape which really helped what Leighton Clarkson was supposed to be doing on Saturday. Just talk us through this.
Yeah, so what I've done here is just sort of a bird's eye view of how I thought we lined up in possession on Saturday. I think the big thing to pull out was just how we deployed Clarkson. It's been actually a few times in recent weeks he's played as sort of like a double pivot alongside either Palaversa or Shinnie. So earlier in the season, we were seeing him more advanced. So he'd have two sitting midfielders behind him, with him in a sort of number 10 position. Whereas more recently, he's been deeper. And what we tried to do on Saturday was he kind of formed a back three with Canuster and Dorrington. And what that did was it really gave us a good sort of base to build from. So rather than building up from like a back four as we usually would, we've got three with Canuster, Clarkson, and Dorrington, and we've really stretched the play, as you can see from this sort of bird's eye graphic here. And it really, what we're trying to do is pull apart the quite compact block that Motherwell were playing in. So they were playing in a 3-4-3, and we're just trying to make the pitch as big as possible. You see Shinnie and Jensen, really lots of width, really high and wide, and we're just trying to pull apart, say, their number 10 and number 11, make them as far apart as possible so we've got little avenues to pass into. And I thought it worked really well, to be honest. I thought Clarkson had a great game. We'll come on to some of his passing numbers, but it was just really interesting to see how we sort of deployed him recently and how he's playing a bit deeper. And I think he's really flourishing there.
All right, well, let's talk about his passing and his stats throughout the game. The first graphic we're going to look at is his actual pass map. It's quite impressive.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So it kind of just speaks to what we were saying earlier, that he's playing a lot deeper from the sort of area. You can see a really large proportion of his passes are from a lot deeper. We usually, excuse me, we're used to seeing him a lot further up the pitch. But when we're getting him a bit deeper, we're kind of getting him maybe on the ball a bit more. I think at times this season we've really struggled to play through teams, and having his range of passing deeper in midfield is really helpful because it means we can try and break down some of these really tough defenses that we're coming up against. So I thought it was really interesting just to see just like how the passes are skewed. They're definitely to the left-hand side of the pitch as well, which shows that he's kind of left of the two with him and Palaversa. He sometimes takes up some really interesting positions, sort of deep left, almost like a sort of false fullback, and that's where he's hitting these long diagonals that we've been sort of benefiting from in recent weeks, particularly sort of yesterday in Queen's Park. But yeah, really interesting, and even just pulling out some of his sort of key passes or some of the statistics he had yesterday. He was second highest for accurate passes with 62, 90% accuracy, which is great. Some of the key ones I really thought were interesting were passes into the final third. He had 18, which is highest. And again, they're with him being further back, we're getting the benefit of his passing range and actually being able to execute some of these passes into the final third and break through Motherwell. So I think that was really key. And a lot of them also was his long passing was great. His accurate long balls, he had 10, which was highest, and forward passes he was second highest. So it's just again really showing what a passing range he has and how we really benefited from being able to get him on the ball from deeper areas and play through Motherwell. So yeah, really encouraging.
Let's take a look at some of the actual photographs from the match itself that you've picked out here to give us an actual understanding of the role that Leighton was played. And the first example tells us exactly where he was playing throughout the duration of the game and where you talked about him almost splitting our two centre backs.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to see how that looks on the pitch. It's really quite an aggressive sort of starting position from us. You see how wide our centre backs are, and there's a really big gap between them. I just really like how bold we are in possession there. I've so often seen us under previous managers with either a four or three at the back, and everyone's just kind of in their rigid positions. But there's a lot of fluidity to the way we've been playing recently, which I really like. You've got midfielders like Clarkson dropping in. Sometimes you see the fullbacks going further forward. Sometimes maybe Jensen will drop back, and one of the other centre backs will go a bit further forward. So I really like a lot of the sort of movement and positional rotations we're using. As I said in this example, it's Clarkson here dropping deep, and you can just see what that does is rather than having four at the back, we've got three. So that extra man we've got spare can just be pushed further forward. So we've had a lot of success from diagonals recently. I think that's partly because we've just got more of a numerical advantage further upfield. If we're building up from a three with maybe Palaversa in front of them as one, you've got five or six players further forward that you can really sort of try and have a numerical advantage in certain areas of the pitch. So I think it's really interesting how we've been trying to approach that. It is risky because, as you see there, we've got four players deeper in our own half, and you can see sort of five or six players from Motherwell in front of us. So if we do lose possession, it is risky. We've got to be careful there. And I think we did look a little bit vulnerable on transition at points, but overall I think it's really encouraging signs, and just hopefully more to come in the next coming weeks.
I also think what's really important is that he was very conscious and he looked very conscious and aware about keeping attacks alive. And our equalising goal came from exactly that.
Yeah, his range of passing all day was brilliant, and he was just as we said earlier, lots of forward passes and really creative. He's got such a great like passing range, and on his day he can be brilliant. So it's really great to see a return to form. But yeah, as you said in this example, just keeping the ball alive. I just thought we approached set pieces just so much more creativity than in recent weeks. It was really just interesting to see the different sort of setups and different routines that we had. I really love the equalising goal just with Clarkson, as you said, keeping the ball alive, lofting it back into the box. You see how much aggression Canuster attacks the ball with there. And then it's a really nice layoff from Ockles back to Dorrington. Everyone's just really sort of thinking on their feet and really trying to keep attacks alive, which I really liked. But overall, yeah, from set pieces, I thought we were great.
And of course, the second goal came from a magnificently worked set piece.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we do this all the time. We don't have a set piece coach, as far as I'm aware. But it was a great bit of great routine that we tried a couple of times, and yeah, it came off for the to make it 2-1. I thought we executed it perfectly, and I mean, it's actually interesting in the interview that Clarkson said the pass to him from Palaversa was a little bit too hard because he had to take a touch. I think the plan was for him to hit it first time, but I mean, yeah, he took a great touch and a brilliant finish into the bottom corner. As we point out in the screen here, it's really interesting that a lot of the players are pointing towards the bench. I would love to know who was responsible for the routine, but yeah, hopefully more to come. I don't think we'll be able to repeat this routine again because I think people will be aware of it now. But hopefully, we've got more more under our sleeve just to pull out for the next game.
I'm just wondering for the next game whether he will deploy Leighton in the same sort of role against Ross County, because we all know how difficult it is up in Dingwall and how difficult it is to break them down. So I'm just wondering, will he deploy him in that sort of role away from home as well?
Yeah, I know it'll be interesting to see because again, he didn't play or he didn't start against St Johnstone away
Yeah.
either, did he? So I really hope we do because I think that's a couple of performances now that have been really positive, and I think he really does help break down defenses or teams that are going to be quite solid at the back, like Ross County. So I hope we do see more of that. But yeah, we'll just have to see.
Yeah. All right, mate. Fantastic as always. Thank you for coming on. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you after the Ross County game again.
Perfect. Thanks, Ali.
All right, mate. Bye for now.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Andrew, thank you as always. Here's the thoughts of the manager.
Yeah, that was the reaction from the team was good. Sometimes you can get stressed and start overdoing things and don't play the way we want to play. So the way we started the game was really good, and then I think that was the first time they arrived. They score a goal, and but how we react after that and keep doing the right things with no stress, but still try to keep the intensity high and don't lose quality. I think that was the most impressive thing today. And again, what we talked about also before, the supporters, the environment here in Pittodrie when we play at home, it's so important for us. So to get that energy and push to the end, and some really nice goals today also. Yeah, that's
my thanks as always to the football club for allowing me to use Rob's post-match interview with the manager. Now, you probably noticed during Andrew's chat there that I was wearing slightly different attire. So Andrew and I pre-recorded that chat earlier today. When it was nice and warm outside, it's absolutely Baltic at the moment. Believe it or not, we've got hailstones outside. It's freezing. So I wasn't going to put the t-shirt back on. But that t-shirt came courtesy of the Lewis and Harris Aberdeen Supporters Club, who came all the way over from the Western Isles to attend Saturday's game. And they didn't just attend Saturday's game, they also attended Friday night's event at Ardo House Hotel. My thanks to everybody at Ardo for their fantastic hospitality, as well as the guys who put the event on, everybody at the Longest 40. There were over 300 in attendance to listen to Alex McLeish's and Willie Miller's stories, and they went down an absolute storm, as you can imagine. So again, thank you to everybody that came along. We really had a very special night, and it really was a lot of fun. Willie and Alex were on absolutely brilliant form. Right, guys, let's dedicate the rest of the show to you to see what you're all saying. Richard Mickey McMillan came on to say, it's good to be back. Good evening, all. Gavin Wilson says, glad no panic set in when we went a goal down and ended up giving a great account of ourselves. Fraser Gunn says, love Saturday and thought we were very good. Clarkson was superb. Also impressed with the back four. Clarkson and Ante dovetailed so well and always looked like they had time on the ball. He went on to say, times are hard for many right now, but so hoping we can get a big jump in ticket sales for the semi against Hearts. Steve Williamson is on. I'm doing just fine, thank you, Steve. He says, I thought Clarkson was brilliant. Urkel's much improved with Shinnie behind him. Nisbet improved once again. Gay is not hitting the heights of the beginning of the season. Come on, you Reds. I don't know what you thought. I thought he was lucky to stay on the pitch. A bit of a rush of blood there, I thought. Gavin Wilson says, I think Urkel's, like others before, needed time to settle in, different country, culture, etc. Johnny Wilson said, enjoyed my day at Pittodrie. Good performance and result despite the ref being clueless. Clarkson and Shinza outstanding and Urkel's best game so far. I think the less said about the man in charge in the middle, the better, really. I don't like to speak overly out of turn, but I think he's going to have to get the tape out and have a look at his performance and hopefully learn from some of the really poor decisions that he made on the day. It was not the best officiating, I have to be honest. But look, just learn. Colin Gale says it was a very encouraging result on Saturday. Delighted for young Alfie Dorrington scoring and playing so well. Hopefully it will give us the chance to get more talented youngsters from Spurs. John Bleasdale's on. How are we doing, John? The plaudits from Saturday night going to Clarkson, Nisbet and Shinnie for their performances. But have to give a shout out to Dorrington. Last few weeks he's been improving and played well again on Saturday. Jerry Kennedy says, what an improvement from last weekend in Perth. Clarkey and Ante bossed the midfield, and we played with so much flair and pizzazz. The ref, yeah, you're not overly happy with the ref, are you, Jerry? Graham Byron says, evening Ali and fellow dandies, brilliant game on Saturday when we went down 1-0. I thought, well, here we go again, but we dig out a fantastic result. Hopefully we can go on a wee run like we did at the start of the season. Roddy Keenan says, what a terrific showing on Saturday, onwards and upwards. Craig Ruff says, cracking evening on Friday. Two absolute legends with great camaraderie and a good sense of humour. Drove up from Glasgow and loved the game on Saturday. Go Nisbet. Graham Gibbs says, a lot more like the start of the season. Far better pace and desire about us. Interestingly, Red Halliday said that they had a plan to press us, but we spooked them by using the long ball more. Paul Hurd said, I thought the muscle and presence of Pape helped create the room that Clarkson utilised to good effect. Some good link-up play as well in the first half. I got to be honest. I actually thought Pape didn't play that bad. I thought he was all right, you know. I thought he was sort of linking the forwards with the midfield quite well. He had some really nice touches. I know he had that rush of blood. But overall, I actually thought he did all right. Martin Smith says, cracking weekend, enjoyed Friday night at Ardo and then a great win on Saturday. Lillian Miller says, what a weekend. Martin Smith says, Clarkson was excellent, always showing for the ball deep as well as ahead of Palaversa, plus he ran forward with the ball at his feet. Ryan Ellington says, good evening fellow dandies, what another good result from the Dons. Alfie Dorrington, Leighton Clarkson and Kevin Nisbet, absolute highlights of the game. Keep up the brilliant work. Fred McKenzie's on, wishing you all a good evening. Jason Campbell said he travelled up from Ayr for Millivan McLeish on Friday, then the Dandies on Saturday. And it was good to meet you, Jason, as well. David Horn says, good evening to everybody. Enjoyed Saturday after the Dons' performance in the afternoon. Superb performance by Clarkson. Suze is on, asking for more of the same. Duncan Wright says, good performance on Saturday. Best we've seen from Clarkson for some time. We trip over the bridge to Dingwall for me up next week. Hopefully another win can help push the ticket sales for the semi. Barry Cole's here. How are we doing, Barry? Great team performance, and how good was Clarkson? Their goals seemed to kick us up the backside. Alexander Wallace is on. How are we doing, Alexander? He says, great result. Well done to all who attended on Saturday and the team who showed great patience and control to steal the win. Nisbet was brilliant. Paul Hannon is on. How are we doing, Paul? Hope you're okay. Kirstine is on. How are we doing, Kirstine? She says that she thought I was a good luck charm on Saturday. I'm not going to disagree, Kirstine. I thought I was also a good luck charm on Saturday. I'm going to come more often. Bruce Struthers is on. Great result. Best performance in a while on Saturday. Clarkson showed what he's capable of. Now need it every week. Exactly. That's the only thing I would say now is just keep up that level of consistency. DM is on. Great performance, but we still look slack at the back. A better team would have taken advantage. You think? I thought, okay, apart from the goal, I actually thought we did all right. A lot of you are commenting about Friday night. Delighted that so many of you enjoyed it. And I would just like to personally thank Duncan Wright, who this evening has become an ABTV member. Duncan, thank you so much for your support and your commitment. What it basically means is that Duncan has, in effect, subscribed a small subscription fee to the channel, which helps me massively to help improve the channel going forward. So it's a very small monthly fee, which Duncan's now going to pay to the channel, as have 80 others of you as well. So Duncan, thank you so much for your support. Your contributions will go straight back in to improving this channel. Very grateful to you. Thank you, sir. Paul Hannon says, we also need to secure Nisbet his playoff, and on the ball he's coming back and helping out, and his 2 goals he's now showing the player he is, that he's getting there. Deck G is on. Great performance on Saturday, especially Nisbet and Clarkson. The Motherwell players spent a lot of time on the ground trying to get the AFC players booked. What I noticed, and look, I'm not playing skullduggery. I'm not playing skullduggery at all. But this rule, which absolutely I'm all for, I don't have any issues with it. I'm not saying anything against the rule. But I thought there was a little bit of taking advantage of this rule when you get a head knock and the referee has to stop the game. I thought that happened once or twice rather conveniently in the game. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I'm not being a bandit, not playing skullduggery. It's just an opinion. Musical Box says, once again, the ref was a major factor in the game, breaking up play every time a Motherwell player fell or flung himself to the ground. Can't be bothered says, good evening, dandies. A great result can only build confidence. But have we seen the end of Devlin? Good call. Lillian Miller says, what a weekend. We travelled up to Aberdeen from Ayr on Friday. Had a brilliant time at the Millet and McLeish evening. Delighted you did, Lillian. It was lovely to meet you as well. Andrew Shiney. Sorry, got it. Andrew. Shinny was brilliant at left back. Got you. He was, mate. I'm telling you. Keep him there. Charlotte James says, evening dandies. Friday night was a great laugh. Willie and Ali were on great form. Then to add to a great weekend, fantastic result from the boys. Kilted Warrior is on, wishing you all a good evening. Davy C 1903 says, brilliant from the Dons. Let's make third ours. Gordon Keith Ritchie says, great result. Now let's get on a run and get a European place. A lot of you are commenting about, Urkels, about how well he played. I also thought he put in a decent shift. I really did. I thought he played well. In fact, I thought they all played well. Charles Craig says, I realise the financial benefits of making it into Europe. However, I presently don't think we have the depth of squad able to compete with such a busy schedule. And Hugh Burns came back in reply to that. He says, we need a squad of 28 to play in Europe and domestically. It's a lot of players, huh? Kyle Muirhead said, Clarkson needs to start now for the rest of the season because when he's on it, he's arguably one of our best players. Very few players in recent years I've enjoyed watching more than him. Ridiculous ability. Some of his passing was just sensational, wasn't it? What a game he had. A lot of you are talking about, about getting Kevin Nisbet signed on. A lot of you are talking about his wages will be an issue, all that kind of stuff. A lot of you asking me, do you think we'll get a deal done for him? Look, I would love to get a deal done for him. He's just become the Kevin Nisbet of old, I think, in recent weeks. Take the St Johnstone game out of the equation, but honestly, if we can pull it off, I think it would be a major coup for us, but it's going to be tough because of his wage demands, I guess. Cal MacD says, evening from the Isle of Lewis. Great weekend had by the Lewis and Harris Dons. Met Shinny and King Joey after the game. Big thanks to Lynn Fisk for making it happen. Yeah, big shout out always to Lynn, Aberdeen SLO. Thanks, Lynn, as always. David Gold Rally Vid says, I feel Keskinen is a bit greedy at times. I meant supply to strikers was better with Shady and Keskinen rather than Urkels. Urkels was okay on Saturday, but not outstanding, he says. A lot of you talking about Nicky Devlin. Colin Gale says that, let's not forget, he extended his contract for 2 years. He's still got a role to play. Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of you also agreeing that Shinza needs to stay at left back. David Swinton said, possibly the most complete performance of the season. Both Ante and Leighton were immense. Andy B says, Shinny at left back has certainly worked against Queen's Park and Motherwell when we're dominating the ball. Against the Glasgow teams, it could be a completely different test. Yeah, I agree with that. Right, guys, we're just about done. So always at this juncture, don't forget to like the show if you enjoyed it so far. Thank you for all your comments that have come in. And thank you to those that have continued to subscribe to the channel. We're certainly building. We've added quite a few over the past few days. So I'm absolutely delighted about that. So thank you as always for your continued support, not just with the subscription, but also with the membership as well. So I really, really appreciate it. Right, guys, we're going to call it a night. So I'm going to be back on Thursday night for the preview because unfortunately, I'm facing more surgery this week. So 1 or 2 issues going on with my health again. So I'm into the hospital on first thing Friday morning to have a procedure done, which will keep me in over the weekend. So I'll be back on Thursday night, and depending how we get on in the hospital, I'm hoping to bring the review show from the Ross County game either on the Sunday night or the Monday night. So just keep an eye on my socials and I'll let you know when I'm going to do it. So thank you, as always, for coming on. I've had honestly, I can't believe that I'm back here. Delighted because I'm seeing my kids again tomorrow, but what a weekend I had at home. It was absolutely fantastic. Went out to Newbury at the weekend, saw all the folk from the Erdney Arms Hotel, popped down to see my mum and dad at the grave, and yeah, it's just the best weekend. And thank you for so many kind comments and coming over and getting lots and lots of bozies. See you soon. Stand free.